Thursday, January 17th, Open Space and Recreation Committee, Conference Room 2. This is going to be recorded.
Thanks for everybody showing up tonight. We'll make this as quick as possible. What's the first thing? Review the minutes. Craig, I'm not sure. Did you state the committee needs to find him an alternative place, or just a possibility? I'm not sure.
Where does it say it needs to?
Second paragraph of discussion.
Where does it say needs though?
I mean, it's
Oh,
fine.
I see.
It's fine what it is, if that's what the.
I wouldn't say, I didn't, not needs to, I just think we need to be thinking about
Something to
that. Yeah, I wasn't,
Needs to investigate an
yeah, we
alternative
need to
place?
have an open mind about it, I guess. and,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say needs, if we could amend that. I think,
So Cindy, we can just change that.
Suffice the off-road needs.
Could or should, or, instead of need.
Yeah.
It's a pretty strong word.
You're right.
should,
Should investigate.
yeah, should investigate, yeah.
I can go now.
Any other changes?
No, I move we accept the minutes as amended.
Any discussion? I hear a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. We have a couple of guests here tonight. I guess we can move the agenda around a little bit to accommodate the town planner and the former town planner are here.
Just visiting.
This guy, he's just on the
And
planner.
he's on the planning.
But these are the guys that are actually, we're getting paid to.
At one time I
We
got
are?
paid.
Oh, that's right.
I think
forgot to tell you.
I might have reviewed the current one.
No,
2012, yeah, I think I did.
Need a pen, Greg?
Marcus was town planner. His goal was to get a master plan done.
Mine too.
Now, it's Alan's goal to get a master plan. Basically, the reason I invited him here tonight is because there is no master plan. We'd like to
It's
find
all
out.
SE.
There's gotta be some kind of plan,
Show us
even if it's not formal in writing, there's gotta be some kind of plan in the planning board's mind is what they'd like to see for the town, the future of the town.
This is, that's correct,
There was a
it's
couple of-
not SON.
Well, I think
Not a big deal,
the
except for
opening
Norwegian, that's a big deal.
in that current open space plan did a good job of summarizing a
Well,
lot
that,
of the status of the town.
Yeah, you guys actually have the
So that's
latest,
the correct spelling, yes.
most up-to-date
S-O.
book
No, it's
that
supposed to
one
be
we can
SEO.
draw on and use.
It is.
I mean, if what's in here is good and you agree that that should stay the way it is, then that's fine, but we just need to have make sure it has been confirmed, it's been updated, that the goals remain the same. What was the
I don't
part-
think the goals have ever changed. Basically we're looking to balance the town with a fine mixture of residential, commercial, open space goes along with that. just more recently, the last subdivision off of the old country club, South Country Club. It's a flexible subdivision, so 40% of the land has to be open space. And we made recommendations to gain access to the open space on Sawgrass Lane. They've actually have to install a 10-foot wide gravel path so that people can't access the open space. On the east side that's coming up, it's likewise, they're actually, the east side is 80 acres of land, and 32 acres of that is going to be open space. And we requested they leave all the existing cart paths for the golf course in place, so that people have access where they can walk passively through the conservation wetland areas. So we're not narrow-minded as far as trying to get, we don't want to try to cram as many houses in as possible. We're trying to make it a balanced envelope.
So there is a portion in here about the flexible residential.
Right.
Yeah, we could put that in the section that it's encouraged, the new subdivision that come in has been encouraged with bike paths, and we could add that to it.
And there's there's other things, there was a talk about what's called a pocket park. There's other open space in
Is
as big
that
as.
pocket park? you said?
Pocket park.
What's that?
They had a small lot that they were gonna put like a meeting area for kids to play, mothers to sit and wait for their school buses, have some swings, things like that, but a lot of people were opposed to it because, of course, the houses on either side, we're gonna have to look at it, and they were worried that it wasn't gonna be maintained correctly. So we made a proposal, why don't you make an access to the open space, which is much larger. In that particular area, it's 28 acres of open space. That has some old logging roads through it.
Can they put a park on open space though?
Well, there's different classifications. Can you put an open space? Yes.
You could put a park on there, on
Yes.
open space?
Yes. But it's always, who's gonna maintain it? Is the problem.
Yeah, I just didn't realize that it's allowed on open space, structures are allowed on open space.
Well, not structures, playground, something passive recreation.
The reason I asked is because Woodland Ridge, which the Conservation Commission has control over the open space, they wanted to put like a ball field or a park or something in there, and I believe it wasn't allowed on open
Well, that might be
space.
because of the passive recreation. They don't want cars, people coming to ballparks, sitting in bleachers, kind of not destroying,
So they
altering.
voted, they didn't want the pocket park, they decided not to have it?
At Sawgrass Lane?
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, I was promoting it
it's too
significantly
bad.
because it's a common thing to have in developments, to have like a neighborhood park. Minimal amount of equipment as far as slides or whatever, for the kids. But it's a bench or two, people come together. Everybody stays in their home and nobody comes out hardly except maybe to walk to the bus stop. So the concept in a lot of developments is to have a common gathering area. But the rest of the board members, the majority were not.
Well, that's unfortunate, because a lot of times I've had it more than once where they'll come in, the homeowners will come in and say, we need a place for the kids to wait for their school bus, we need to do this on open space land, but they can't do it because it's open space. But if it was a pocket park or some kind of little area.
Right, it was
It's actually
designated
in
for
the
that.
subdivision regulations,
Yeah,
we
what-
require
Unfortunately,
a small amount of area for
Right,
fresh air or whatever.
unfortunately, where it was, because the road has quite some curves in it. It was going to be sticking out a little bit, and the houses were going to be in back of it. So they'd be looking at the homes would be looking at the rear of it, and they thought it would be more of a distraction.
But we'll keep working on
We
that.
tried it,
Yeah, yeah.
So we do look, with all the other agencies, conservation, open
If you had
space.
that in a master plan, then you could force them to do that. You could tell them they had to do it, but seeing there's no master plan.
Well, we
you
should
can't.
revisit I think, it sticks in my mind in either the bylaw or the subdivision regulations, there's a section about open land or?
It's in the bylaw.
Something.
It's under
related to-
flexible.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we should, you know.
Now, what I'm looking for, Alan, is right after he talked about the FRD, there was a little space there that said about there being a moratorium on, not a moratorium, but a cap on the amount of buildings, what's it called?
Phased growth.
Phased
Phased
growth, yeah.
Yeah, that's no longer in effect. It actually expired in 2012. So it was not, at that time, when it was put in, back in the early 2000, they were anticipating a lot of big boom, like the roads couldn't keep up with the infrastructure, services, but because the economy kind of had a problem, and it lapsed, and it's never been enacted again.
So should we put that in the open space plan as, it's not in effect anymore, or just leave it out, or
I would just take it out.
I would take it out.
just eliminate that?
Yeah, I mean, one time the town attorney said, you couldn't justify it because your growth rate is
Yeah.
balanced, and it's, it's not there, so you.
And it's been, and the growth is starting to come up a little bit, but I don't think it's ever gonna rise to what it was back in the early.
It never kicked in though, because it
No,
never even got to it back then, so it never did.
Never reached it.
Maybe we should put that in there, say, we had a phased growth, but it was unnecessary because it never,
I would just eliminate it. We have it earmarked, we're gonna put it on, unfortunately, when it gets into a bylaw, you have to go to an annual town meeting to take something out.
Oh.
There are a lot of things on the agenda last town meeting, and they asked us just to address it, because it does have an expiration date of only 5 years. And we never even came close, looking at the old building permits, we never came close to meeting the minimum.
yeah, the other portions that they had from the survey of.
Oh, you're talking about this one you gave me?
Yeah, at the bottom, the ones that have the bullets on them. Is that still, do you believe those are still, do you want to read those?
Oh, you want me to read all the bullets?
Yeah,
One of them was a preference for new residential housing to be single-family homes rather than multifamily, which is
that's
true
still-
happening in town.
That's still true, yeah.
A preference for new businesses to be professional offices, specialty shopping areas, or quality restaurants rather than nightclubs. And the
Rather
third-
than what?
Rather than a nightclub. I think we don't have any nightclubs. We do have bars,
Mhm.
but typically if you think of a nightclub, like in Springfield, there is an adult entertainment district, which is industrial restricted, but it's never been acted on. But you can keep, the preference for new businesses, professional offices. I'd keep that there. It says a strong preference for a new multi-purpose teen recreational and social center. Looking at, we do have, in fact, we have the
Well, we
where
got,
ball fields are, the
we
rec
got
center.
the rec center and Walton Park also.
Well, yeah, that's, so that's come in, I think this is an old survey, looking at, you had sent out some questionnaires
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
The schools are open, those are social events for
Some
basketball.
of this was taken from the build-out that we had many, many years ago. We invited all the businesses in and asked them what they wanted to see happen on the corridor. I think some of that was from
Yeah.
way back then.
Then the next one, it says services provided in or by the town were generally rated high, except for roads, which are rated fair. That's typical of any municipality, that there's just not money to properly maintain the roads in New England as they should be maintained. That's being gentle. Then a preference for general tax revenues to be used for building improvements, except for water and sewer systems and public recreational facilities, where user fees were preferred. Well, the user fees basically do run the sewer system, and they do run the water system. Those are, they're town agencies, but they're really sole proprietary.
Enterprise funds, is that what they're called?
No, they're user fees. Everyone who's hooked to the sewer pays a unit fee, and that pays for the maintenance, repair, infrastructure for that. Likewise with water also. And then this one, it says, the preference for limit on number of building permits, which, that's the one that had lapsed.
Okay. So that,
And then-
that goes with it, right?
And then a strong preference for improved water quality protection measures. We're sort of enforcing that because we do have our wellhead protection areas over the aquifer. And planning limits what can be built there, what type of operations to protect the aquifer. And that was it.
Now, since 2012, there's been a couple of new bylaws passed for planning.
Yes.
We have a stormwater, there's a stormwater bylaw since 2012 maybe?
Yes. Yeah, there's two. Well, one of them is in the BR zone, which is primarily the corridor on College Highway. While we're allowing a mixed use.
Mixed use,
Before you can
that's
only,
new, right?
before you can only have a business. There's some older Victorian homes, there's some businesses where people are hairdressers, a few type CPAs. They have a house, they like to have a business. They can have their business on the first floor. They can have a resident on the second floor. But there's a whole architectural review that has to look at it. You know, the parking has to be in the rear or on the side. It has to fit in aesthetically with the town. And so that's a new one.
So that's something we can add to planning process, yeah.
You know, and then we do have the, stormwater management, which is a water quality event too.
What about the sign bylaw? Is that relatively new to the sign bylaw?
Sign by law is well,
Newer than 2012?
yes,
That'd be something we should put in there too. That adds to the character
but that
of the
doesn't really have
town.
anything to do with open space, does it?
Character of the town, that's the, the space.
Appearance of the town.
Mhm.
Mr. Samuelson knows all about that sign bylaw.
I do, especially since Art stopped in the other day and said ours was too frequent. And then I happened to drive down
what?
the center of town
What do you say it
and
was?
look at that one,
The
it's changing
turnover.
every few seconds. And I'm thinking at a busy intersection, so I have to pay Mr. Art a visit here very quickly.
No, 30 seconds.
Because
Each one of those clips is 30 seconds. I
They
think.
are not
supposed to
30
be in-
seconds
Yeah,
down
they
there.
are.
No, they are.
I
I sat there
program
and watched them. It changed 7 times while I'm at the light.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to be 30 seconds at least.
Well, that's still more than it's supposed to be.
But anyway, they're exempt from that
It's
that
called
bylaw.
sign creep.
Who says the town should be exempt from a safety
It's
issue?
in the, we looked it up, it's in the regulations.
From a safety issue, they should be
Not from
exempt?
safety, but from the.
That's why we put it in there as a
sign bylaw.
safety issue, so I don't know how they could be.
So, that's
I
it.
think the town should set a good example.
I do too.
The last time they had one thing on the sign for an hour at a time, that's definitely not a good way. But we
Either
can bring that
that
up.
or revisit the bylaw, I think it
Revisit
was
the
an
bylaw,
hour.
but-
I think
It is
It-
what it
it's
is.
an
was.
hour, change every hour.
It was.
And the Southwick Inn, of course, has one of those type signs. And I
You
don't
gotta
know
make
if
your
there are
letters a
couple
little
of the
smaller
business-
though, give
couple
yourself some
of
more
the
room
businesses.
between them.
No, the
They're
point
hard to
was you
read.
didn't want little fast Freddy running across there or something like that, but I mean, to change it, if you don't see a change while you're coming up the road, or you might see one change, but the goal was not to be distracted by it, not to
Well,
get
that's
messaging on out
almost to
there.
get your attention, I mean, isn't that what all signs are, to get your attention?
Yeah,
Oh, it was just for the ease of being able to change the message, particularly for the gas stations that change their prices.
Anyway, we're going a different route with,
But we do have a sign
we do
bylaw.
have this sign bylaw.
And it's been modified, I think, at least once or maybe twice, because there were some minor things in there. We do have a change, we had the change for residential zone, allow some signage, maybe more than what was in the original bylaw.
And in the,
You know, you always have
in
these
the agricultural also.
unintended consequences.
There was some other things that you, instead of having a master plan, you kind of made regulations that, like, I can't remember what it was, but there were certain parking behind stores, is that?
Well, that's, the town is broken up into multiple zones. And in particular, if you are abutting a business restricted zone and you're residential, there are rules as far as it has to be a 25-foot earthen berm with some tree landscaping, so the residences aren't affected by the businesses, for example. Similar to like, I'll just use Rite Aid. Rite Aid had to plant arborvitaes and had to put a a stockade fence, so that the people behind wouldn't be bothered with lights, noise. But those are all things that are in particular to each zone.
Right, and it's just,
Well, we did formally adopt those, I don't know if you call them architectural guidelines or design guidelines.
Right, that's what I was
Design
meant, that's what I was meant in the,
So
in
design
Right,
guidelines.
design
add that to
guidelines.
it, too.
the mixed
Yeah.
use, in the mixed use especially, you know, we had, it's kind of detailed, it actually goes into signs, benches, plantings.
I had one question, I wondered it for quite a while, is Southwick is a recreational community, or at least that's what, we see the signs up there. Do you know who designated recreational community, or
I'm thinking
what?
the Economic Development Committee. It's never been,
I'd like to put a blurb in there,
it's never
Southwick is
been
called a
designated
recreational.
in any formal planning process.
No,
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's, a lot of towns have a logo, you know, welcome to Springfield, home of Basketball Hall of Fame, things, I think it's just something that morphed into that. Because it is, because of the golf courses, the lakes, the motocross, all the associated things, we do have quite a bit of variety in
we'll
town.
just put it, considered recreational community because of all these things you mentioned, the motocross, the lakes, the boating.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the R district and being able to live above your business
Right.
or whatever. Does that not apply to the center of town as well, or no?
No, well, the center of town is the BR, was basically the BR zone.
The center of town is?
Well, basically from the town hall all the way up to Tannery Road.
Should have brought your maps.
That's a business restricted zone.
So if Don and Nancy wanted to live above their place, they could?
Yes, they could. They were one of the proponents. There were a few other businesses. Where a hairdresser wanted to buy the building, live upstairs and have a couple chairs downstairs. The insurance agency that you're talking about, they have one of those large Victorian homes.
Mm-hmm.
They could in fact do that.
Okay.
That was quite a bit of, especially right across from the police department. He used to be a landscaping business,
Mhm.
and he wanted to live there. Since then, I think it's gone bankrupt. But there's a few that could support that type of business. It's trying to also try to make it little more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to keep people in town who could maybe don't have those corporate jobs, you know, where they can work in town, live in town, participate in town,
Plus,
buy their food.
Safety issue too, if somebody's living there, you're less likely to have a burglar come in and, you know.
But we don't want
somebody there.
people hanging their dirty clothes in front. You know, there's stipulations like that.
Well, I'll tell you where I'm going with this. Even though I sit on economic development, okay, you'd think I should want as many businesses in town as we can have, but I think there needs to be a balance. So when I think about this Black Rabbit that's opening up and out there now, if I was one of the people that had bought a home around there and lived there for, 40 years as I have on Honey Pot Road, and all of a sudden a business is starting and it starts off as, I don't want to say a winery, but whatever it was, and all of a sudden it's becoming, an alcoholic joint, let's say, where there's going to be parking and I'm living right next door to that. How does something like that evolve?
That involved because it was a farm, and they have agricultural exemption because of the zone that they're in. It has to be a certain has to be at least 5 acres of land. Originally they came in, they wanted to have I think the term is farm to table. They wanted to grow their produce, animals, and cook, but they couldn't revise that. And it's not going to be like a Westfield Brewery, for example. He's limited to his production of the beer.
You can't taste the wine if you go there?
I think
Grand opening is Friday.
there's a limit on the size.
Oh, yeah.
Alcohol,
That makes sense,
and that's designated by the alcohol tobacco.
But they're not gonna be sitting there drinking.
No, it's not going to be. First of all, they're limited. I think they only have 7 parking spaces,
Yeah.
and their goal was they wanted
Just
to,
Fridays and Saturdays, right? They're gonna just be open 2 days a week.
I really don't know that they did come through all the channels, and because it was a farm, a record going all the way back to the 40s. It was, and they kept it they still kept it as a farm type procedure.
Well, it was a little ski resort at one point,
Yeah.
ski hill, I should say, I don't know, resort.
And I know that they're at one time, the initial owners were going to try to utilize local farmers for beef, poultry, plants, things like that.
I just think we need to be careful, I mean, because, you know, when I first came in this town 40-some years ago, we were forced into an industrial park because of the type of business we had, and now I see semi-trucks, you know, parked in residential districts firing up and all that kind of stuff, and
And
they're
the ZBA
allowing
wants
it,
to
I
give
mean,
them a
depending on
permit
who
to
they
do
are,
it.
and it seems to me things are getting out of hand. Now, that may be a sore subject, but, you know, the playing field should be level for,
Zoning
Oh,
is always
it's basically happening right now. There's 2 instances, one on College Highway and one in Klaus Anderson, where the zoning enforcement agent has issued them an order to remove, because you can't have tractor trailer rigs in a residential area. And
That
it's,
stuff on College Highway
and
and
it's
then
been-
back in.
and
Yeah.
it's been,
and that's illegal in itself.
and
I've been, twice this week I've been behind him when he was back.
and
But
they've
the
almost been
safety officer said it wasn't a problem. That's what they said at the ZBA meeting Monday night.
It is illegal, I mean, it always
No,
has
it's
been.
not, it's not legal, but the ZBA wants to give them an exception and let them do it.
Well, building is saying you can't do it. They've now gone to ZBA to try to get that overruled, which I don't think they should, because although it's been brought to us by the police, not to us, ZBA, Art Lawler is the zoning enforcement agent, and so he cites them, but now the ZBA is, I don't like to use the term good old boys, but there's some people who get away with things that they shouldn't be getting away
You can say good old boys,
with.
starting
I
all
was
over
on that
again.
years and years ago, for probably 10 years.
Oh, yeah?
Basically, anything that you're approving on that, if anybody wants to contest it, the state is gonna overturn it. I mean, it's very,
Yeah.
very narrow.
Yes, it has to
I
be.
know when I was on it, we kind of stretched it a little bit.
Yeah,
but
that's what they're doing.
If
is stretching
anybody
those
ever,
little
if
bits.
anybody ever contested it, 90% of the things that go to the state
You're
are
absolutely right.
overturned.
Most people just don't wanna go through because it takes so much time
Yeah.
and money to contest it, that the ZBA relies on that, so that's why they do a lot of this arbitrary decisions.
Well, the biggest importance in town on anything is public safety. And you've got,
I couldn't believe the safety officer said it was okay for this guy to back in at 3 in the morning, because I guess that's when he comes home and pulls out in the driveway, backs it in.
On College Highway?
It's always
That
just,
way, never
this is
mind.
not Los
That's,
Angeles.
that's 3 in the afternoon on College Highway,
Oh, it is?
twice this week.
Really?
but Dennis, it's a state road, and it always used to be the law, former state trooper, that you can't back in off of a state road like that. So when did that change? Maybe it's changed, I don't know.
Well, but even the zoning in this town doesn't allow for, having a tractor trailer on your residential property.
right, there's limitations, because if they tried to come in with what's called the home occupancy, but in the home occupancy, you
No
can't
visual.
show visual, it has to be run out of your house. You're limited to the size of the vehicles.
Absolutely. So are these things getting out of hand in town now, or what's happening? I mean,
Well, no, the zoning enforcement agent, he's very good. He cited the people, but they've now, are going to the zoning board of appeals to see if they'll allow them to.
Which they don't have any right to issue a variance or anything on
I think
that.
so.
Yeah, they didn't
There's
seem to
nothing
realize
in the
that.
law that would be,
Yeah, they didn't seem to realize that. Doug Moglen pointed that out, or they would have issued
well,
a variance.
I'm
right
fairly familiar with
Thank
it.
you.
There's
Yeah.
nothing in the
That's
bylaws
what he
that would
there.
relate
Brought the
to
book in,
anything
there's
like
nothing in the
that.
bylaw that allows this. Well, we can make it allow it, we can do that. And Doug said, no, that's not what you're here for. You're here to either agree with our Lawler's decision or disagree with it. Then it could go another step after that. That could get appealed also, their decision, which would most likely get shot down. But, it's expensive and time consuming. But,
We just need to
I
be
gotta go to Art's
consistent.
defense a little bit, because he's picking up from previous building inspectors that are also zoning enforcement officers, they're dual role, and I think the building portion of it's a lot easier than the zoning enforcement. And our previous zoning enforcement officers didn't exist. If you know Dennis Guido or Minio, you know, shoot the 40 Minio. There was no enforcement whatsoever. So Art's been out there pulling signs down. I see the back of his SUV is full of yard signs and stuff. He's trying.
He's gaining, which is good.
Yeah.
There's a guy on College Highway by Jared Estates that has a junkyard in his yard.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a hoarder and a
Yeah,
Casmarac. Or,
Yeah, Kamarza.
And they've been trying to work with him because, you know, he doesn't supposed to have a junkyard in a private.
Yeah,
Probably got 100 cars out there.
at least.
He's trying to do the gentle approach, firm but gentle, and some people it's real difficult. We're trying to work, all try to work together in this town now.
But we just need consistency. You know, we don't need what we used to have around here with the good old boy stuff. That needs to go by the wayside.
Most definitely. So Dennis, when we are looking at subdivisions and things along that line, we don't have blinders on. We're not just looking at lots. We're looking at the aesthetics.
Do you have accommodations for storage of snow on the new subdivisions? Because that's a big,
Yes,
that's
we
a
do.
big
Yep.
issue.
We get that comment from Department of Public Works and try to accommodate them.
On the most latest one, on Sawgrass, there is an area that's reserved to push the snow off the cul-de-sac.
And, you know, maybe they could use those places for bus stops during the summer, you know, if that,
Well, the bus isn't going to go into Sawgrass because
go
it picks them up on Sunnyside.
poor kids are gonna have to walk all that distance.
It's only 1,200 feet.
They won't walk, they'll be driven
Oh,
to
my
the bus
goodness.
stop.
Oh, they will.
There's gonna be cars lined up
It's like,
outside the road.
it's like, look at
and
Depot
kids.
Court over here, all the cars
Yeah.
are parked up.
No, not that many, only one.
I've seen more than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe two. Now, the statistics in the beginning of that document, I don't know if we had, Alan, we had someone, and I don't remember how far back it was, we had somebody do kind of a revision of our town statistics
You have those,
in
that'd be great.
anticipation that we might get some money for a master plan. We did like a little piece of it, but that was like in maybe.
That was when you were there.
Probably before that report, yeah.
Yeah.
So we haven't, since 12, we haven't
Well, they,
done anything.
originally Dennis gave me the whole book
Yeah,
and I went through page by paragraph
Oh, wow.
and highlighted
Yeah.
saying new statistics should be found at the assessor's tax accountant.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Okay.
talking about money,
So you got all
money,
that.
age.
Good.
I don't know if you still have that, Dennis.
Oh, yeah,
It looked like
yeah, I've got it.
there was
You know
some,
that.
basically, the plan is a good plan. It just needs to be brought up since 2012.
Did you mention something about utilities or taxes or something like that? What was that bullet?
What's that?
A preference for general tax revenues to be used for building improvements except for water and sewer systems and public recreation facilities.
So that got me thinking about, what are we doing with all these solar farms now? Are we receiving tax money on these?
Yes.
Well, it's pilot,
Huh?
payment in lieu of taxes.
They are paying, they are being assessed, and there is a system where the town is getting tax revenue.
So I heard like with Big Y down here, because they're using it for their infrastructure, we aren't taxing that.
Big Y is a private entity. Big Y, that solar farm for Big Y is owned by Big Y.
But there is not a value to that? I mean, even if, to me, there's.
Oh,
there's
they're
a-
being, yeah, they are being assessed by the town.
Instead of paying taxes, the payment
Payment in lieu of-
taxes, it's called a pilot.
But they're paying,
And they come to that agreement before it gets approved, right? That's
correct.
what-
That's worked out before the select board and the assessors.
The thing that we missed the boat on was getting solar credits to the Goose Pond, because they came to the town and said, you know, we'll sell you our credits,
But we need to know in a week.
but we need to know in a week, and the town wasn't prepared for it. West Springfield jumped on it, took the credits, but
Oh, I see.
So this statement, preference for general tax revenues to be used for, should it be public building improvements? What would these building improvements be? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Seems like they're saying, I don't know how that
It
question.
should be municipal.
Yeah, municipal
I don't think so.
improvements, what you think? I
think so.
mean, this is referencing the questionnaire, right? The survey
Right.
that was done.
Did you,
last time.
you just sent out a survey?
Yeah, you did a
Yes.
survey.
Did you get all the results back,
Did you do
or?
a summary of that?
We
can-
got
we
about
can-
400, somewhere around there, and I'm still working on getting it all compiled and added up.
400 out of how many that were sent out?
What is it, about 2,000?
But that's a lot better than we've gotten before.
Oh, absolutely.
Which really isn't that
Absolutely.
bad, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. that definitely-
Well, look at the
Because
attendance at the,
that
look
would
at the attendance.
change, that would affect those bullets.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so-
that's, once we get enough of them, Cindy's adding them all up in columns for what people really want, and what they,
And some people did add input too, which
yeah.
I'm gonna be,
a lot of
make sure.
people Put their input in, it's good input, people take
Mm.
time to write their
It's
comments.
unfortunate you only got 400, I mean, that's
Yeah,
not a good percentage.
Out of 2,000.
But although the public annual meetings are, you're getting a lot more people involved. At one time, you used to show up and there'd be 75 people.
so one thing that, just looking at the surveys quickly, is that people don't know where a lot of these places exist. And as we found out last time, some of them don't exist. Fletcher Park, Keenan Park, never existed, don't exist, aren't gonna exist, so we should take those right out of there as far as, confusing people as to looking for something that doesn't. Keenan Park, I went there and it's
Yeah.
steep slope and there's no frontage on the road, so that's right next to your house.
Yeah.
Right, it is,
No way to get there.
nope,
So.
except for animals, they hide in the hill there, the wild animals.
Fletcher Park, the same thing, there's a brook, you can't get to the other side of it. I think people just donated these to get them out of their tax roll, figure they're doing something good for the town, but it's
Yeah.
just confusing us in this process. And there's other ones here too that we need to
Maybe this
eliminate.
isn't the right venue, but what about sewers? And, I mean, is there any, as far as master plan goes, I mean, I know we've been short-sighted since I can remember about sewers when,
Sewers?
yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
the
they keep
sewer-
changing
the
their
sewer-
master plan on it though.
The Sewer Implementation Committee has a phasing of sewers. Unfortunately, the last 2 or 3, the public opinion is overruled. People don't want to participate in it. There's no backing. The town doesn't have any surplus money to put sewers in, which to me is very important.
North
and
Pond
they-
was a priority back when they were doing the phase 2. North Pond was supposed to be the next phase, then they decided the school was more important. They moved that up to the top of the priority list. And that got shot down, right? That,
Right, then
when
the
All
town,
empowerment that comes.
the 3 schools needed to be hooked into the sewage system. So what they
Because-
wanted,
because of
because
what?
failures.
Oh, really?
Improvements, whenever you improve, you have to come up to the current codes. The high school in particular couldn't, they were under a consent order. So there was a whole proposal to get the sewer, which runs down the bike trail.
Mhm.
They were gonna run it through the subdivisions. Those homes were built back in the early 50s. There's a turnover for people, younger families using more water, septic failures. They came up with an affordable solution. The people actually balked and it was shot down. So the schools ran their own forced main system down these roads to get to the sewer. And these people can never tie into that because it's only like a 3-inch line, which is enough for the schools, which, that was unfortunate that there was no money set aside. Congamon Road, which is under construction right now, was the same thing. They were gonna they had sewers proposed to go all the way down to the McDonald's Big Y area. Some of it was gonna be a pump station, and it was gonna tie down into Berkshire, which has active sewer. And the people opposed it because of the the use.
Astronomical costs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, because it is ledge, I mean, it is, sewers are typically the deepest utility on a road, and therefore they're costly. But it's kind of, you're putting a brand-new multi-million-dollar road in, and in 10, 15 years, you're gonna start having failures. You don't
Sure.
wanna go and dig up a brand-new road
Yeah.
and go through all that infrastructure. But it is costly.
It is costly, but, you know, I mean, I go way back to, I don't know what the breakdown was. If I said we were gonna pay 5%, way back when for our sewers, and we still have people said, no, let's hold out till the federal government pays 100%, all right?
Yeah, right.
And so we've lost ever since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been on the losing end of the stick ever since then. And so we had some selfish people on the sewer
Yeah.
committee that took care of their own needs on the front end, and they got what they needed to done. And I think Randy's got a tough road ahead of
Yeah.
him, because nobody's willing to get creative in this town. I mean, we take care of the poor houses around the lakes and all those disasters that we have to, but there's really no business plan about how we can make the sewers work in this town, which is really sad. You know, we're at the point where we could have, I wouldn't hesitate to put up a small hotel in this town, but you know, how are you gonna do that if you don't have a sewer? So I think the economics would work, but somebody needs to sit down and get the businesses together. I mean, that's why we have an industrial park. All we can have is dance in there and gymnastics and all that kind of stuff. We really can't.
Here, our
Wouldn't
industrial
be
park
creative.
is over the aquifer in town, so it needs public sewers.
Well,
to
the
draw-
one south of us is not, technically it's not the aquifer. This one, the Hudson is the
Yeah.
aquifer, not the other one.
It hasn't been advertised, but they've been having meetings in town hall with a developer that wants to buy the Griffin land off of Tannery Road and wants to put, I call it a trucking terminal, but they call it a
Distribution center,
100 trucks come and go one day.
50.
That's a-
They want to put up, well, it's in the early talks. They want to put up a 1 million square foot distribution center off the Griffin land, you know, which is in back of the Key Bank,
Yeah.
down in that area. There's a lot of other things that, you know, they need, it's only being serviced electrically from down by the nursery, sales plants. They really need a secondary source, because if this were to fail, how are they gonna run their business? So they're just right now, they're exploratory.
About the roads, I mean, the roads aren't, they'd have to
Well, they
drive
would
down
have-
57.
They know they would have to create a lot more
But I
infrastructure.
think the town's interested because they see this big tax base come in, but do we really think that'd be the best use for that property over there? I mean,
My point is, Dennis, with these sewers, we have to start taking this
Geisler's.
serious, you know,
Well,
from a
they're
business
talking about
standpoint.
sewers over there because they could hook up.
They
their
could tie
sewers.
into the interceptor sewer on the, they
Could easily do that.
they front,
That's not doing anything for the south end of town or anything
No.
like that, and problems that are just waiting to happen down there with McDonald's and Big Y and so
Oh.
forth, okay? It's just,
they've already had three different systems in the Dunkin' Donuts.
yes.
And that was going to come down, and those, they did a survey, Big Y, Pride, all of them thought it was a good idea. They would have to, of course, pay a lot more than the regular residential.
Of course.
And,
They do
but it would
vote
open
down.
it up, we might see more building, more different uses.
They voted down the dry sewer lines on Congamon Road while they had the road, while they got it opened up, they could put dry lines in there and they got voted down. They're gonna pave the road, and then if they ever wanna put sewers in there, they're gonna have to dig the whole road. Well, they gotta wait 5 years first of all, right, because of the moratorium, and then dig it all up again. Short sight, talk about short sight.
Yeah, it's awful. I don't know. I think it's gonna be a limiting factor, you know, I mean.
But
Oh,
if
it
we
is,
if
it
we
is.
had a master plan, we'd be able to, you know, direct these people.
Well, that wouldn't be
to-
in the master plan, that's,
Well, look at the land
Yeah, it
over
would be
there.
it'd be a
Yeah.
component of a
Look
master.
at the land on,
It'd be under infrastructure.
on Tannery Road. I mean, that was at one time planning board was talking about, you know, having another little town center over there. Maybe not necessarily a town center, but, you know, a shopping plaza and stuff like that that we really need. Really don't have anything except for dollar stores in this town. But
So, it is important that we really emphasize that in the master plan as far as town expansion.
unfortunately, this is serving as our master plan until we get one.
How can you tie it to open space and recreation?
Well, that's all we have, you know, we don't have a master plan, so this is what we go by to get grants or anything. If it's not in, if it's it's not in the master plan, which it's not. Hopefully we can get it into the open space plan and use that for substantiation of why we need the grants, or we can get the grants, because it's already been, we talked about it, discussed it, and this is what the town would like to see.
Yeah, as far as the sewers, back 20 years ago, there were a lot of grant money available because of the Clean Water Act and stuff. They got farmers' home loans, low interest, $6,000 to $7,000. They could pay it over 30 years. There were a lot of. Randy does have a hard nut. He's been looking for grants, something to tie it in, especially when it comes to when the state is going to be putting as much money as in Congamon Road again. They could have put a cap sewer in, and then if the funding came available, that could go into opening up. But people get negligent. They look at their pocketbook and they don't know other problems. But since, like for example, the school, that area off of Potter Mill Road, people are having failures. They have to now pay $15,000, $20,000 to put a field system in, which they could have tied in.
One way you can tie it to open space is that if you have a sewer system, you can have a denser housing development.
Instead of urban sprawl,
Right.
you have it.
And it helps to protect the-
discourages urban sprawl because you can focus, like over at the country club, area, that whole project. I think for 2 minutes, maybe we discussed the possibility of bringing sewer, having public sewer for that development. That discussion didn't last long,
Well,
because who's gonna
If the
pay
sewer is,
for it?
yeah, if the sewer is brought up through the Griffin Land Trust, I think it would have been more of a sell.
Yeah.
They would have to brought it down a couple thousand feet all the way down through
But
private
you
property.
can tie it into you can tie it in the open space plan by saying that.
Yeah.
That it discourages sprawl, because you need larger lots to be able to have an on-site septic system. So you could have more
And
compact-
sewers,
Tie it in there.
more
yeah.
compact development, which some people like and some people don't like compact development, How close do you want your neighbor to be to you, and so forth and so on.
plus sewers help to protect the water quality of town also.
So you can get it in there now.
I don't know, you
There's no
could,
easy answer.
water quality on the North Pond, if they put sewers in there, it definitely would improve the water quality in the pond.
Well, I mean, some of these older areas, if they have failed systems, the leachate goes into the water system,
The
eventually
water
gets
table,
into.
yeah. And the chemicals and the drugs that people are taking go right through their body into the water system.
I mean, the American Inn
Yes, the American is.
is a huge
They're on their third system already.
problem.
So-
And for, there's a concentrated, dense development that does not have public sewer. And so what happens?
That's awful.
You
Well,
have failures.
There was an
You have
effort,
failures.
because American Inn is suffering, there was an effort to reach out and say, on this American Inn, could you have contributed, I'll just make it this up, $100,000.
Yeah.
The country club, $100,000.
Mm.
Eventually you can get to where,
But you have
The
to
problem-
have a big picture. You have to
Yeah.
have.
Griffin Land, $100,000. Why don't they, if they want to sell their property, they should invest in putting a sewer in there?
well, that's this new organization that's coming in. They want Griffin Land to get the necessary easement to do that.
They won't
Because
even just do the delineation, never mind easements, but you would think that would be a priority on their list.
But if that sewer were to come up through there, at least sewer would be, right next to Key Bank. It would help those agencies, it would help the DPW, it would help Tractor Supply, it would help that. It's like one thing, you have to put a turnpike in. Once a turnpike is put in, then you can put your collectors in. The collectors are more affordable. The turnpike is a much bigger pipe, deeper pipe. But once it's there, I mean, my history, I was a municipal city engineer for 44 years.
Hold that against you.
Well, and that's basically, this is in the Avon Farmington area. But by bringing that in, you brought businesses, light industries, and of course the people who work there.
You could get some businesses on College Highway, so it would be more.
So if you you can add a paragraph or add something like that, you can maybe eventually someday draw in that sewer.
I'm wondering if the planning board has a night that they don't have a lot on their agenda, if they could put this on the agenda, open space on the agenda and the vision for the future, and I'll come to the meeting. or
Well,
whatever.
the first thing you do is just start off with a letter to them. Rather than me just verbally giving it to them, if you can present a letter, you need to have a trail. Verbal doesn't work because people forget or they misinterpret. If you could just put down that you'd be interested in set, make finite steps.
Find out when you have a slow night coming
We've
up.
been, this,
slow
recently,
lately.
it's been very quiet,
Yeah,
We should go, Dennis, we really
Right.
should,
very
Yeah.
quiet.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
as a committee,
Even
right?
February
That
22nd.
way we'll have everything,
But since early December, I think that's what we
consensus
right?
to find out where they're coming from also.
So I think there's a certain element of people in the town, though, that think that once you get sewers and so forth, you're gonna end up like West Springfield Route 5 or something like that. But conversely, if you don't control what's happening here, you're gonna be worse off than West Springfield.
You don't have to end up like Riverdale Road, and if you have it in place, if the town has
You don't,
their stuff in place, you wouldn't have to, if you just let it go willy-nilly,
yeah.
that's what's gonna happen.
But I mean, so Duncan's on its third system, and another couple of years, it'll still be flowing out on top of the blacktop like it was, because it's tight soils around here. There's no way around that stuff. These systems aren't gonna last forever.
Now, even the zoning itself, when I was at the ZBA meeting, and they're telling Randy that, he was putting that pump station in a residential area, there's more businesses than there are houses out there. It might be residential, but it's got Whip City Tool and Die, it's got the dentist office there, it has the gas station, I mean,
Well, and the big thing is, it's not for Whip City Tool, it's for the benefit of the town, to put a new main in so they can treat their water more efficiently. The pump station that they have right now, which is right across from, like the hash house in that area, it isn't sized correctly.
but you did redo the zoning, what year was the zoning redone in?
74?
That's the newest?
Oh, the newest? No,
Yeah,
the newest one was just,
changed the maps, right?
it was just we did not change the maps, we changed the categories. Allowed, it's still the same zones, it's just that they're allowed, they have to do different things.
Oh, so we should go in here, because this has the zones in the categories, they might have changed and what.
The
from what it says in
the
here.
zones haven't changed, it's just that.
Not the zones,
it's-
but what you can do in those zones. It says that in the AC zone, you can't use fertilizers, and is that still,
Yes,
yeah, that's still the same?
the zone configuration hasn't changed, it's just what happens within each zone, what is allowed.
Well, we don't want to wear you guys out or anything, so.
Dave's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, no, the only
Say
thing, is,
something.
I've been thinking here, is it outside of the scope of the open space plan to say, here are the areas that we expect to not be open anymore, that they're currently open, and we expect something's gonna go here, and
Right.
kind of describe a little bit about what we envision going there, and I don't know, maybe,
Right, that's-
tie in the sewer, maybe,
That's what
and just,
we're-
and here's how it would also help us enhance or protect the rest of the stuff that we do expect us to keep
That's what
open.
that's exactly what we're looking for.
I know
Yeah.
the select board last year sent out to every department of what parcels would you like to see preserved?
Right.
And everybody came up like a 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
Most of it was conservation area, most of it was for water quality, pump stations, things along that line. Nothing ever came out of it. It was a study, people brought up different aspects.
Well, it did work out good in the long run because the golf course wasn't on that. Nobody had prioritized preserving the golf course. So when they came in put a subdivision in there, people were, oh, we gotta save the golf course. Well, nobody ever said that, nobody had that in their plan, so. Not that we could afford it, we could have done it anyway,
But
Would have been possible to do it even if you wanted to, which, I mean, some land has to be built upon, that's, seems like it's an ideal spot to build houses in the glut of golf courses,
Fortunately, they have good soils.
yeah. So, yeah, we will get in touch, see if we get on the agenda, and we'll see if we can make, how many of us can
We
make it
could,
down
yeah.
there, just to rehash this, go over it.
'Cause it's better, you know, a lot of people will come to me, and at the meetings, I will tell the board what's happening, what's been approached. I always recommend a lot of people come to the board first, get a preliminary feeling, to make them, one, they don't wanna go out and spend money on plans if the board's kind of against it. So it's free, you can come underneath, it's free for the town, but anybody, they can come in, express their concerns, the board can look at it and say, this looks good, this isn't that good, maybe you have to, you know, they're there to help, they're a diverse group that have a lot of background in different aspects.
Maybe we can pull out the old master plan. You got it with you?
I see this.
It's so
This has got a
old,
copy, this has got a cover, it says Southwick Master Plan.
yeah, but it's not,
March 1997.
no, but it's not a master plan. All that is,
You got it.
That was
Fake
the open
master
space.
plan?
Yeah, it looks like it was the open space plan. The format anyway, but it was done by the Pioneer Valley Planning
1997?
Commission.
what they did is they took and were trying to guide what has to be done. It's not a true master plan. It has no,
Never been
it
approved.
has no
or
smarts.
it's Never been.
Well, it
What
looks
year is
like
that?
the open space plan, that's the 50-plus-year-old
What year is,
master plan.
50 years, what year was that?
67.
It's well low.
The last time I went to the planning board, they said they didn't need to redo it, they thought it was just fine the way it was, we didn't have to
It's not the
redo it.
planning board.
That was a long time ago.
In 5 years, every year I've gone before the select board, asking for money,
Gotta
to
ask.
appropriate money to do a master plan.
They won't
I
give you
I
40.
get glazed
They won't
eyes.
give you 50,000.
I get 115,000.
Oh, it's gone up that much?
Oh, yeah.
I only asked for 50 when I
I
was.
think
a
we
planner.
paid 40 for that one right there,
Here?
for
This
Pioneer
one?
Valley, I think we did.
Not
It was,
this.
Which one, the original one?
that one,
This
That
one
one
in
there?
97.
was that 97?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
97.
$40 grand for that?
this is just basically an answer
Wow.
to questionnaires.
It was a lot of money.
It doesn't, most master plans have an abundance of maps, open
Yeah.
space,
Maps are
community
most
development,
important.
traffic, you know, the wishes that the town wants to do to help guide them in a correct way.
Speaking of the maps, I got some word back from, we did sign the contract, and they're starting to work on it. And they got in touch with the assessor's office to find out, because everything has a unique parcel identification number on it. So we want to have everything that we have unique identification parcel number on it. So it can go on the town maps, the layer, that you can go onto our website, onto the mapping page, and pull up open space, you know, all the different layers that we're gonna do in here. We should be able to have it there. So they sent it to the assessor's office sent the information back to me. Now I'm gonna try to put it all together and send it back to Cartographic, CAI. And they'll start generating some prototype maps, they'll bring to the meetings.
Are they
We'll look
gonna
at
do
them.
the GIS system for you?
It's all gonna be GIS.
Are you gonna have the ability to read it?
Us? I can, I think Dick can, maybe a couple of people. We don't have a GIS department or pretty much any IT department in this town.
How long do they figure it's gonna take them to do that?
Hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have some drafts for you. And it all depends how fast we get the information back to them and how much we light a fire under them at the same time. And a lot of this information in here can be updated, I believe, from the maps, because they'll have all the chapter 91 parcels. So we'll be able to add all the acreage up to find out how much acreage is in chapter 91, 91A, 91B.
Yep.
um,
Agricultural,
Agricultural,
61.
recreational, 61.
61.
61.
61.
61, sorry. But it should, these maps should not only just have pictures with all the stuff, you should be able to add it all up together, you know, say, okay, all these parcels, what are they, pick all the parcels in green that are APR parcels. How much does that add up to in a total of acreage?
Are you gonna include a section on the process of land coming out of chapter 61? And there was some I think, agreed upon protocol or something to follow when that happened, because there were issues about people getting blindsided.
Well, there
Yada,
is
yada.
no protocol.
I thought there was something adopted, and that then
The
triggered
selectmen
the
told me-
survey of all the boards to submit,
It's-
you know, their priority
Selectmen told
properties.
me at a meeting to my face, there was no need for a protocol for this. I put one together for putting your lands into chapter land and taking them out. And
I'd put it in a draft and run it up the flagpole and see
they
what
said that
happens.
we don't need a protocol. I mean, they went to different towns and found out what they do. Because right now, there are people that they're getting a tax break on properties that shouldn't deserve a tax break because they're not really farming the land. And that's not fair, you know, that's just cheating. And even though they say it's not a lot of money, it adds up to quite a bit of money.
Oh, yeah, I added it up
Yeah.
there one time, yeah.
So-
I don't know if I still have that on my computer.
I mean, there is a method of getting out of that, and
You can just drop out of it, you can fall out of it, you don't have to. But if you wanna transfer the property, you wanna get out of chapter 61, there's a right of first refusal for the town.
right,
The town has 120 days to exercise that right of first refusal. But the clock starts to tick as soon as the person taking it out is supposed to send a letter to the town saying our intentions are, we have a certified purchase and sale for this property. If the town wants to buy it for that amount of money, you have 120 days to come up with the money or find a land trust or somebody else that wants to do it.
Well, you should
The
include
town doesn't want to
that.
make anybody
That
wait.
should be included in this
They
draft.
don't wanna make anybody
in the
wait
draft
120
document,
days.
So it
The
gets
lawyer
settled.
comes in, he says, we got a closing next week, we want to sell the property at a closing next week, need you guys to sign off on it. Well, the selectmen have the ultimate authority to sign off on anything they want without checking with any boards. And we used to have a piece of paper that would go around and say, open space is not interested in preserving this property, conservation is not interested in exercising our right of first refusal. Most of the time we're not, because we don't have the money anyway, but
But like you say, there might be a land trust that you can, you know, if it's a priority in whatever plan you have,
yeah.
then you
Well,
can come
we'll put it
in.
in there, it's curtain time, there is no protocol for,
No, I'd put in what you want for a protocol. You're the committee, so. I think it would be
No,
pretty
good-
important for an
a G-
open space plan to have.
The
but
town's,
it's up to the
section on
selectmen,
that.
though, if they don't want it, or they're not gonna have it.
the
you know.
town's grown to a point where they really have to get a truly integrated GIS system that can be used by all the departments, taxation, I know it's money, and they just don't
Like
wanna,
Our computer system here, we don't even have it, we can't even,
well, that's what I'm saying,
communicate with each other.
truly integrated.
never
I mean,
mind a GIS, we don't even have a Word program that's up to date.
Oh, I know what you're going against us, but I'm just saying, gonna have to bite the bullet in order to get something that has smart intelligence that can be used to help further growth in the
No, I
town.
agree. We put that in there too, that.
Yes, put it in there.
We need to have a.
It's, until you work with it and, you know, and these systems have actually paid for themselves. The assessor's department, just doing new aerial photos, you know, you're getting assessed for 10 acres of land. You really know you have 16 acres of land. But when you start doing all this digitizing, you know, that the assessors picks up more money because people aren't gonna be honest and say, oh, I wanna pay more for an extra 5 acres of land. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, we could add that in there, that, I mean, when I first, 20 years ago, when I first started working.
Well, I see what you struggle with.
We had no maps at all, and I'm going, how can we plan on anything if we don't know where it is or what it is? You know, we put everything that we had into,
No, you do well for what you have, but you don't have the necessary tools.
we don't have a department to run that.
No, and other people can't look at it.
It should be all on a server so that if somebody can get the current information instead of having it on your personal computer where one guy's got one figure and another guy's got another figure. That's just some of the short-sightedness I think that people have, not wanting to spend the money, the initial money up front, paying before.
Well, I mean,
long
it's good that you are, what you have to work with is a good first step. I mean, it's not even 10 years old. And it's easier to keep something that's new, updated, than trying to go back 40 years and create a new wheel. So it is good. It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's
oh,
a
yeah,
helpful tool.
Yeah.
Who did all those maps? That was done by
These are
Pioneer
done at
Valley?
Pioneer Valley Planning, and we have all these maps digitally, we own the
So
files.
CIA,
So CIA, CAI
CAI?
Yes.
now
They
has
could
all
get
of.
the CIA, they probably give you really good.
They also have these maps now, these are just biomaps, but
So they're gonna do the maps.
these maps here,
Well, are they doing the maps for you? Or are you just gonna use these maps and
they're taking these
update them?
maps and updating them, so they don't have to start from scratch.
Yep.
And they're gonna, these right now, they look pretty and they're nice PDF files, and they are on ArcView, but they don't have any kind of points or any kind of
Yeah.
definitions on them. That's, we need to have them all identified, each individual parcel.
So you're heading, I mean, you've got something to work from.
And I suppose the next thing, that the priority properties to preserve, because we're getting rid of most of the stuff that's in here. Most of the priority properties preserved are already gone or not preservable. So we need to put the word out there. What do you think? We got this selectmen list of what priorities. We'll add that to it. But if anybody in the meantime, we're talking about the Drake Mountain there with the honey pot and the Monk's Caves and all that. It'd be nice to do something with that, but I don't know if that's
How can you when it's on private property like that?
right. We'd have to talk to the property owner and,
I don't think it ever happens right behind his house.
what about like Baxter Sand and Gravel? Would that be someplace we'd be interested in?
Well, I talked to them because I heard not long ago that somebody had been in to see them about putting some homes in there, and I said, you guys promised me first right of refusal, before you would do anything.
What do they put in there, Al? They're gonna put a training
Well,
facility in there?
the latest.
Where? No, not
Baxter's.
Baxter's. No, that's Hudson.
Another one?
No, Baxter's also.
Really?
Hudson Drive has the operating engineers,
Yeah.
the heavy equipment. Baxter's Sand and Gravel, there's a gentleman who wants to open a similar type of training for surveyors, being able to analyze soils, hoping that these people, it's again, it's an agency, they'll train them there for that aspect, not heavy equipment, more survey related, hoping that then these people can then go to Hudson Drive to learn how to use our operations.
So they're not selling the place, they're just gonna lease it out, or?
No, Levesque came to us with a potential investor about a year ago, but nothing's happened with it. Because I know Honey Pot, well, you're from the Honey Pot area, they had problems with the old Baxter, and he still basically takes out like 100 yards a year that keeps, he was pre-zoning,
Mhm.
so he can technically keep it on that classification. He can't take large amounts of. He's just playing the game,
He
trying
can't
to make.
process, can he?
No, he can't. But he has piles, and he will occasionally take a pile away, so he can say he keeps his exclusion open.
Hmm.
So these gentlemen, they wanted to, it was going to be a classroom type of atmosphere, teaching the fundamentals of engineering, design, drafting, that type of stuff, hoping that they're going to go to the operating engineers on Hudson Drive and then find their skills more. But a lot of things come through, and I've learned a long time ago, you don't believe it until it's coming through.
Yeah, something doesn't make sense about all that, but, I mean, why would you need that kind of property for that? I don't understand that,
Yeah.
But yeah, think about it, if there's any
Alan, there was
recreation or.
another document that was developed by the state, had money for historic landscapes or something like that. There was a report that came out of that they should get to look at probably. You don't recall it? It was like landscapes, like the priorities.
remember, you know.
Scenic views, that kind of thing.
That's not part of the agriculture, the architectural review, right? That was like trying to keep the homes clapboards rather
No,
than
no,
aluminum
no.
siding.
This was landscapes. Landscapes, it was something about landscapes. You'll find it up there, I'm sure.
I think we could go on for hours and hours, but we got quite a bit to digest right here. Went through quite a bit, quite a bit of
You
things.
But like I say, you know, we work for the town, we should be all working together too. It's like my father now, my God, that's scary.
You just say that.
And you live in Westfield.
Yeah, just recently.
You moved to Westfield. That's good.
So what do we want to see happen for the next meeting? What do we want to?
Are you done with us?
Hmm?
Are you done with us?
Yeah, I think so.
Anybody got any more questions?
No, you've been pretty informative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you so much for
Go
coming.
upstairs and look for that plan.
No, I'm not going to. You go look for it.
Go home, watch Netflix.
Watch Bird Box.
Look.
Did you see that one?
Yeah, it's good. Very
Yeah. That was a wreck by the time.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
over.
that's, yeah, but yeah. It's
Good luck
yeah.
with your
Felt like I
project.
was on the river.
Thank you for coming.
People are doing that, they're driving their
Oh,
cars.
yeah.
Good night.
Crazy, yep.
Have a good night.
Good night. Al.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Marcus.
See you next week.
So what do you think for the next meeting? What do
Thanks,
we
Greg.
want, what do we want to
Take
have
care.
done for the next
too.
meeting?
How much longer are we looking to do this, like month-wise? I mean, we have a, like, end date we have to have it done by? I'm just,
November, I think, 2019. So we got time, yeah.
we have to have it.
Yeah, we don't have to
finished,
have,
published
we
by
don't
the-
have to have meetings if we don't need them, you know?
No, I'm just wondering, like, when we have to have something finished completely.
Well, it's like-
Something reviewable at least.
I'd like to get something into her, you know, within the next month or two for a draft anyway, just to get a draft in so they can tell us what they don't like and we can
Right.
work on it. Okay, so the next meeting, I'll have some type of draft, Cynthia and I will work on an actual draft of taking this and changing all the stuff in it
Yep.
to current.
Probably still waiting on the survey results though, too.
Yeah.
Yes,
survey
that
results.
should be done by the next
Yep.
one.
Well, I'll write up all my park and rec spaces and things that we'd like to do.
Yeah.
Get that all,
And then after we do the meeting with the planning board, we probably should go to the park and rec and, you know, have a meeting with them, just to
well,
have it in the book.
Jeannie, well, you sent us something for the park and rec to come in, or the other boards.
Yeah.
That's when Jeannie came in. So
Yeah.
I think she was pretty detailed on everything we have going.
But just for the process, they like to see lots of meetings, you know, okay, so we had a meeting with the planning board here, we're gonna have another meeting with the planning board there.
Right.
I think that'll cross off in enough meetings with the planning board. Same with Park and Rec, we need a couple more meetings with them. What other?
You know, I wonder if we can get Randy in here.
DPW, we need to get a couple of meetings with them also, go over that whole sewer deal.
Yeah, because you know, what Marcus said about, you know, incorporating this, I think we need to get something in there.
Yeah,
I don't know what it looks like, but it seems like we
there's a
need,
place for it, we'll definitely get it in there.
but I don't know how we, you know, what the message is, but it seems like we need to get something in there. So I think we could meet with Randy, he could help us with that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So could we have him here next time, maybe at least for,
If you want, we could do that, yeah. Ask the DPW to come in for the next meeting,
yeah,
Randy and Dick if he wants to
yeah,
come too.
yeah, that'd be good, yeah.
All right. Goals for next meeting. And we'll be putting the draft together also.
Yes.
And we don't have to review that at a meeting as much as we can send it off to everybody email and they can just read it on the computer
Okay,
and then discuss it at the meeting.
sure.
Well, what's our next day?
Well, that's it. The
21st.
next question is when do we want to meet again?
I put February 21st, but we can do whatever.
21st.
That's fine.
That works for me.
That's fine for me.
Look
Yeah.
good. Awesome.
Anything we're forgetting about, Cindy? We'll remember it after the meeting.
I know. I don't,
Hey, what,
no, because we talked about CAI, we talked about, the planning board and survey.
Not to drag it on, but what are the selectmen's priorities?
We should get a meeting with the selectmen eventually.
Do we know what they are? I mean, have you seen the list of, as far as their,
The priorities?
yeah, you mentioned that they have.
Yeah, I've got that list, yeah. Well, it was, all the land use boards submitted their 3 top priorities of lands for preservation.
Yeah,
So we'll definitely add that to the,
okay.
Was there any big ones on there other than North Pond, or?
oh, there was a few on there that were, there's a $1 million farm in Connecticut, right on the Connecticut line, Moore Vining Road, Vining Hill. Moore
Yep,
Vining Road.
Really?
I mean, they said, put on here your wish list, it's never gonna happen, but it's so much money involved with it. And Tommy Russo's been trying to buy to develop it. He's trying to get it all the way from Moore Vining Road all the way to Route 202. It'll be a massive subdivision. That was on the Agricultural Commission priority list. Probably should have a meeting with them too.
What about Kellogg's? Are they interested in that or no?
Kellogg's?
Yeah,
Seth's kind of painted himself in a corner. The state wanted to buy it, but he's got so many encumbrances and right-of-ways that Alexax put through there that nobody will touch it with a 10-foot pole.
really?
You can't give it away.
Really?
We had a meeting with him, we had a meeting with his lawyer, came to the meeting. Nothing Seth can do about it. It just, every time Seth gives Danny something, he wants something else. Now he wants the right-of-way to go to Baxter's. So why do you want to go to Baxter's? Well, I own part of that property too. So he's trying to grab that land. It's in Landport.
I thought Danny was out of the picture now. I thought that.
Not at all.
he had-
No, they're still in Landport, and Seth, last time I talked to him, he said he was gonna tell Danny to pound sand.
That's awful.
We had this piece of property,
Oh.
beautiful piece of
Oh,
property
man.
on Loomis Street, and it did waterfalls on it, views and everything. Already approved, we had the $400,000 grant approved from the state, went through town meeting, got all approved. One of the landowners came in and said, I own that property, you can't do that, you can't buy it because I own it. And as soon as he got into legal battle, put a kibosh on everything. The town didn't want anything to do with it, the state didn't want anything.
Did Tortorella drop out or he?
Tortorella got paid off.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, the other neighbor came out of the woodwork and he took the money though. They gave him a right away and paid him off. But now Seth, I don't know if you saw the sign, Seth Geraci, Seth's nephew,
Yeah.
is selling that piece of the covered bridge,
Oh, I did see that.
the bridge. And there's only one right away to get in there. And they're just gonna, it's gonna be too messy.
It's awful.
Oh, well.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you again for
Motion.
coming down. Motion to adjourn,
So move.
second.
Second.
All right.
Favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good job, Dennis.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a lot. It's a